The Magnificent Seven is out in theaters this week, a remake of the 1960 movie of the same name, which itself is a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. All three films are about a poor village that hires a group of wandering warriors to protect them from the outlaws that are terrorizing them, or in this case, the capitalist who is trying to steal their land. The new movie banks heavily on the charisma of its lead actors, Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt, who are not quite as fun as they are in other films, but still plenty capable of holding up a movie. They're helped by a solid supporting cast that also happens to be a very diverse supporting cast. Score 1 for Team Current Year. So The Magnificent Seven 8 is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who is a huge fan of the Western genre, and that's evident in the numerous callbacks to other films. It really indulges in all the trappings of a Western movie. Long landscape shots of men riding on horses, practical stunts, super sweaty actors, shooting a guy's hat off instead of killing him, canyons at night, twirling guns, staring, long drawn-out shots of tension leading up to a gunfight, and also this exact scene from Django Unchained. But hey, if you're gonna steal from a thief, right? As someone who is also big on westerns, this stuff is what I enjoyed most about the movie. The action especially feels just right for a modern western movie and delivers those critical standoff scenes before a fight begins perfectly. So that's all fun and good, but it's really just the surface level stuff. The biggest problem with The Magnificent Seven 8, 9 is that being a retread of a retread, the overarching story is obviously predictable. Nick Pizzolatto and Richard Wenk deliver a functional script that hits all the plot notes that it needs to, but it's pretty light on character development. The characters each have some fun moments, and there's even some good scenes of them bonding, but they never quite get as fun or as deep as I was hoping for. Where the original film bounced these characters off of the various villager characters they were protecting, the core group interacts almost exclusively with each other in this movie, so the heart of the movie needed to be in the relationships that they have with each other, but there really isn't a whole lot there. Ethan Hawke's Confederate soldier character at least gets something to do with a PTSD plotline, but it doesn't really develop so much as it is just something that exists until it needs to go away to get back to the gun shooting. You see, the film is just much more interested in building each of these people up as screen presences that it doesn't build them up as characters. There's so many hero shots in this movie that they might as well have been the Avengers. In fact, for how unbelievably incredible they are at fighting, this sort of turns into a Western movie filtered through the modern superhero blockbuster. There's tons of well-staged shots of them together as a group that scream, "Look there, it's the Magnificent Seven!" But your adoration of them as a group never quite reaches the rousing heights of the previous films. But the film does distinguish itself from the other movies in one very important way, and that is the theme. Which means that I'm going to go into spoilers for all three movies, so click here if you want to skip over to the conclusion, otherwise, here we go. At the very end of the previous two films, the leader of the group says the following.
The old man was right. Only the farmers won. We lost. We always lose.
Having lost half of their men, the warriors pay a high price for their selflessness. And while the farmers return to a life of normalcy, the warriors face an uncertain future. It feels like the end of an era, the end of these warrior classes that are needed in times of trouble and obsolete when order is established. In their final moments, these films are not about glorifying the samurai or the cowboy, but about stripping them of their glorification. Being a cowboy isn't some great thing. Here, I'll let Bernardo explain this.
Don't you ever say that again about your fathers, because they are not cowards. You think I'm brave because I carry a gun? Well, your fathers are much braver because they carry responsibility. For you, your brothers, your sisters, and your mothers. And this responsibility is like a big rock that weighs a ton. It bends and it twists them until finally it buries them under the ground. And as nobody says they have to do this, they do it because they love you and because they want to. I have never had this kind of courage.
The new Magnificent Seven movie is the exact reverse opposite of this. Why? Because Denzel Washington's character, Sam Chisholm, wins in the end. We discover that he has selfish reasons for becoming involved in this whole affair, unlike the characters he is based on who helps out for totally selfless reasons. Chisholm wants to take revenge on both, and he succeeds. He rides off a winner, and the movie celebrates this lifestyle to its last beat. Its predecessors leave you feeling somber, reflective, They question the very fantasy that they have drawn you into. Whereas Fuqua's film gives you the permission to slide back into the warm nostalgia of yesteryear, content in saying that violence can be solved by more violence, and the greatest and most magnificent men in the world are men who are the most ferocious fighters. It's like the filmmakers have, inadvertently I think, removed the thematic heart of its predecessors and replaced it with something entirely different. Now, maybe that difference is more in line with our times, a more cynical world that lacks the decency that defined the other films. I think you'll probably enjoy this movie more if you haven't seen the films it's based on. It's a solid action movie with a shiny western coat of paint. It might lack originality and depth, but it definitely has its charms. So I'm giving it 3.5 stars out of 5. Make sure to let me know what you thought of the movie and how you would rank it against the films it remakes. In other news, the Emmys were this weekend, so it's time to complain about which millionaire got another stupid golden statue. Specifically this one, for outstanding writing for a drama series, which was won by the Battle of the Bastards episode of Game of Thrones. Yeah, the Battle of the Bastards episode. For writing. Does nobody understand the difference between good writing and good directing? So this episode also won outstanding directing for a drama series and is probably the most worthwhile recipient of that award ever. Most movies don't look as good or feel as exhilarating as this episode does. But guys, it's just a battle scene. What exactly is outstanding about the writing of this episode? It's completely serviceable writing, but it'd be like giving Mad Max Fury Road an Oscar for writing. It would have deserved to win for directing, but it ain't Shakespeare.
I wanted to hear just a little about how you feel about winning for writing.
I was talking to Miguel Sapochnik, the brilliant director who won the directing award for this episode, and maybe my favorite shot in the whole series so far is the one behind Kit when he's pulling his sword and the horses are charging at him. And the line in the script is something like, Jon Snow draws his sword and looks at the horses charging at him. You know, a great director can make you look a lot better, and great actors make you seem a lot smarter. So we're just very lucky that we work with the people that we work with.
I have nothing to add.
I mean, Battle of the Bastards is not even the best episode of Game of Thrones that aired this season. Both The Door and the season finale were more impressive writing accomplishments. And they were both written by these guys, so the trophy would have ended up on the same shelf anyway. I sort of feel like people awarded this episode because it was the most fun Game of Thrones episode, and they want Game of Thrones to win, so they gave it to them without actually thinking about the specific category they were nominating it for. Because for my money, any episode of Mr. Robot would have earned this spot more. In closing, dear Emmys, you awarded 26 trophies, and you only got 25 of them right, you monsters, and I'm unreasonably mad about it. The end.
I have nothing to add.